So greetings on International Women's Day to all of the women and the working people of Korea, and especially to the Comrades and Workers' Solidarity. It's obviously very important for us that the tradition of International Women's Day was founded by socialist women, first in the US and then in the Second International, including the great German revolutionary and friend of Rosa Luxemburg, Clara Zetkin. And that was the day in 1917 that the Russian Revolution began, with demonstrations and strikes for bread and against war. For us in Ireland now, this has particular significance this year because we're involved in a massive struggle for women's rights in the campaign to repeal what we call the Eighth Amendment, which is an instrument in our constitution which prevents us having abortion, having any bodily autonomy and having a right to choose in Ireland. And so International Women's Day will be marked by us here by a major demonstration for bodily autonomy, for abortion rights, and this is in the run-up to a referendum which we hope will be held in May. So we're going to be working very, very hard to win that referendum. Revolutionary Socialists here in Ireland will throw everything we have at that to ensure that for once we break out of the dark ages that have inflicted massive inhumanity on women in this country for hundreds of years. So, you want to...
Yeah, I just wanted to refer us back to Marx himself, who remarked that that without the feminine ferment, as he called it, there won't be a revolution. In other words, women playing their part, their revolutionary role in bringing about change. And we saw this not just in the Russian Revolution, but where women, as Breed described, played a role. But we also saw it in the revolution in 1916 in Ireland, where women played a leading role in pushing that movement forward. People like, but not confined to, Constance Markievicz, who actually became the first elected member of the House of Parliament and minister, female minister, in the world, apart of course from Alexandra Kollontai in Russia. And so that feminine ferment we want to carry on, we are carrying on in the fight for abortion rights today in Ireland. And again, women are playing a leading role. We're particularly proud of Breed here, who has been at the forefront of the campaign to repeal the Eighth Amendment. Breed continues to play that role, and there is a great movement of Irish women now fighting to repeal this terrible restrictive piece of legislation that holds us back. And we will continue to fight in that. Just as we did in the water charges movement, just as women played a leading role in that, women will be playing their full part in fighting for their own liberation and right to bodily autonomy now. So revolutionary greetings on International Women's Day to all our Korean comrades and all our comrades everywhere.
So the struggle for bodily autonomy, for women's liberation and against sexism stretches all the way from the US to Ireland and to Korea. So on International Women's Day we want to send you solidarity and greetings, and for international solidarity between all working women and men. Happy International Women's Day.
Yes, we are here today on a demonstration for women's rights in Warsaw. We're from Workers' Democracy. For us, the fight for women's rights is a part of the struggle against capitalism and against exploitation and discrimination.
Hello, friends in South Korea. Thanks a lot for this opportunity to talk to you. In Poland, just over a year ago, we saw tens of thousands of women and men protesting throughout the country against an attack on abortion rights. Our job as socialists was to mobilise as many people as we could to these protests. Not just that, we also stressed the need for trade unions to play a much more important and active role on this question. We were instrumental in the Metal Workers Union sending a small delegation to the protest. The unions are very passive in Poland at the moment, so we have to try to break through this paralysis. We need to turn their formal declarations of support for women's rights protests into the mobilisation of ordinary rank-and-file workers. We also stressed that the most active students should mobilise their fellow students and bring them out onto the streets. We, of course, are continuing with this approach today. Some people on the left say that the question of women's oppression is a distraction from the workers' fight. We disagree. This is a class issue. Affluent women can easily get abortions when they need them. It is much harder for poorer women to do this. This affects working class men too. The male worker's conditions of life are worse if his partner is forced to give birth to an unwanted child. The man is not overjoyed if his woman partner earns less money because she is female. Workers are all weakened if some of them earn less because of their gender. Today in Poland, for example, a doctor can force women to give birth when a fetus is severely damaged, so that it dies within hours of being born. And the right-wing government party wants these enforced births to be passed into law. So we say to those on the left who think that such issues are just for the middle classes, would you stand by and watch fellow workers have their life threatened at work? Of course not. Then why do you think that working class women's lives should not be protected outside of the workplace as well? Within the women's movement, we have to fight the influence of bourgeois liberals who want to speak of women's oppression in order only to gain popularity, but are cowardly in the face of right-wing attacks. Speakers at Women's Day marches in Poland used to include the head of the bosses' organisation. Due to pressure from the left, this is no longer the case. Last but definitely not least, we have to emphasise that women's oppression is an integral part of class society and has been for some 6,000 years. This continues with capitalism. Only by overthrowing capitalist exploitation can we live in a society without women being treated as inferior people. Once again, thanks very much for this opportunity to speak to you, and solidarity from Poland, from our organisation, Workers' Democracy, Pracownicza Demokracja. Thanks very much.